these guys asked Jonah, kwani we ni nani? Who are you? Because he said, I'm the one who has caused this. He said, I am an Israeli. I serve the God who made heaven and the sea.
Yes.
And I have run away from him.
But yes, how are you doing?
Fine, thank you.
Karibu sana.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. It's my first time ever in this building, let alone the Pearl Radio.
Yes. Looking forward to have good conversation. You know, it's the very small one, like I mentioned to you off air.
Yes.
That we kind of, I kind of know, Pastor Joseph Mushiri, who you're related to.
Yes, Mushiri is my nephew. That's amazing.
Yes.
But we also have somebody called Kagiri. I don't know whether you're related to that Kagiri.
You never know.
Okay.
You never know. But karibu sana to Pearl Radio.
Thank you very much.
Maybe for those who don't know you, you can just introduce yourself.
Yes. This is Jotham Munene, married to Lydia Wanjiro. We're blessed with 2 daughters. You can't call them children now because, I mean, talking of 26, 21. Those are grown-ups, eh?
Yeah.
And one of them just got married the other day.
Awesome.
So I'm also
congratulations.
father-in-law. Yeah, thank you. We bless God for that. I serve right now as the senior pastor at Sitam Gong. I also serve as the overseer of the southern region. We have 3 regions in Sitam, and I'm by God's grace, I'm serving in that capacity. And I've been a pastor for a while now. Actually, in Sitam, I realize I've been there for 15 years.
Yeah.
That looks like I'm growing young.
15 years is no joke. That is quite some time.
Yeah. It's a while. Yeah. So I love ministry. Then recently I became a writer. I don't know how recently, maybe 10 years ago, I wrote the first book.
Yes.
And we're working on this on my second book that should actually be out. What is today is Friday. So anyway, next week we should have some copies ready, and we're excited of what God is doing.
Allow me to ask you, what really inspired you to start writing?
You see, because first of all, I get challenged by our friends from other parts of the world.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the US. People like TD Jakes, people like and this guy, what do you call him? This one who has a very happy church. I think you know who I mean.
Yes.
So, but there are so many of them, and you notice that not only do they preach, but they have put their material in print.
Yes.
And sometimes I used to wonder, how do they manage to do all this? Then there are friends from Nigeria also. These people from Nigeria, if you invite them, they'll generally say, I want to speak about 10 points, but I don't have the time. So I'm going to do 4 points today. Yes. Then if you get my book.
Yes, I get it.
Yeah. So the Bible says that Enoch, it's Enoch, who walked with God.
Yes.
Who is it that is so? Even though he is dead, he still speaks. Is it? I think it's Abel, either Abel or Enoch.
It's Enoch.
Yeah. Even though he's dead, he still speaks. How does he speak? He speaks through the printed page. So if you can capture what you have to say, then it's available to many more people, and it can outlive you. That's the motivation. I want to leave an impact.
Yes.
Beyond my time. And also beyond the area where I'm able to go physically. And I think writing is one of those things. But I've also enjoyed writing. One of my best courses in college was English composition.
Yes.
So you can see it's also something I actually enjoy doing.
And how has the response been, people actually receiving your materials?
Now, they love it. But what we did, I never launched my first book. So some friends of mine have been saying, you really ought to do a book launch. I said, what's the use? They said, you see, now everybody knows about it if you do a book launch. But people have been getting to know about it, one-on-one, either from social media. But sometimes when I go to speak in different places, I mention I have this book. And then I had 1 or 2 outlets that also, had it. In fact, one time we had it at Textbook Center. And then the testimonies I've been getting encourage me
Yes.
to make this information widely known. I'll give you one example. I met someone in Naivasha, and this person says that the person was unwell with a life-threatening, condition, and they said, "It is your book that helped me," because the first book is called "Fear Not," and they said, I was going through that in my darkest time. I thought, wow. Then this ought to go to more people,
yes,
for the sake of being a blessing to them. Then another guy caught me up in Southfield Mall. I live on those sides of Mombasa Road. And he says, when I first got saved, you came to speak, I think in Sita Membakasi, and I got this book. This is my first devotional, and it has been a great blessing. And then he said, and then this is my wife who just got saved, and we're going to get her out to get started on it. So the response is great, but there are times when people don't even know. Like now, when we are trying to do this other book launch, when my team calls, they say, we didn't even know you had a first book.
Yeah.
So I realized it's my fault not to let people know. Then they can make a decision if they want to read,
yes,
or they don't want.
And talking about letting people know, you have a new book that you're set to launch next month.
Yes.
To actually do an amazing, and I actually was just going through it.
Okay.
Stepping into New Horizon.
Yes.
And
you have a copy already?
Not yet.
Okay.
I need my copy.
I was going to wonder, who are these people who are giving my okay.
So specifically, you've been talking about the story of Jonah.
Yes.
So why the story of Jonah?
Okay. So actually, the motivation was that we did a series in church. Our theme last year across Jotham was taking new territories, thinking about the uncharted waters. And we thought to do an exposition on the book of Jonah. And I've talked about Jonah before, but I got quite some insights that I think we should share this with a wider audience,
yes,
and also make it available for a longer period of time. So what we've done is, after the introduction, I've done theology of the book, the author, those kinds of introductory material. But even before delving into the chapters, chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, I started telling people some of the areas where Christians have neglected to go into, and they have left it to other people, and therefore the redemptive hand of God is not being felt in those fields. And the reason that Jonah didn't want to go to Nineveh is that he really didn't think that is a space where the prophetic ministry was needed. Actually, he was angry with them because they didn't treat his people too well. And he believed that they shouldn't be recipients of God's grace and mercy. And of course, he in his own mind, he thought, if I run away from Jerusalem, from the temple, God can't catch me. God would know where I am. and he'll have to look for somebody else. But God is not a God of Israel alone. He sure is the God of Israel, but he's the God of the whole world. And he's concerned about other sectors. So I say things like, one of the places I'm proposing is the funeral homes.
Yes.
Some Christian, many people don't want to hear anything about dead people.
It's true.
But it could be there's some people who have been sent to that Nineveh, and because it's unpopular, they don't want to go. Therefore, we have left that space with the other kind of people. Bus transport, if you have been to Mombasa, or going to Garissa or wherever, is only almost one religion that basically is in that space.
Yes.
And I think Christians also need to get into that and many other spaces that I have. So, given samples of places we also need to go to. Then after that, we have now done things about the book itself with applications to our lives today.
Rev,
yes.
I wanted to ask you this question. Was there a moment in your life you decided to run away from God's call?
Yes. Yeah. And, I've written this book to speak to people in all kinds of sectors or different callings.
Yes.
Because it's not only the pastoral calling that is God's calling.
Yes.
But I'm afraid it applies a lot to the ministry.
Yeah.
there's a day I do some training once in a while in Bible school, and when I do that, I tell them, if you have managed to come here, I know you've really worked hard, because generally your family wonders, you're okay? Is there something wrong? And sometimes there are people who feel that if you go in the pastoral calling, you can't make it in life. Maisha yako kidogo, you're not going to make ends meet.
Yes.
So, and then, like me, when I grew up, in fact, in the traditional church I came from, we don't even call the people who lead churches pastors. We have other names. I think priest would be more like the word. So when I got to know the pastor, which was being applied more to the Pentecostal, I didn't know other places like Baptist. I knew a bit of Pentecostal. They didn't look that well to do, and it was sort of despised. So I had an idea very early that I should be in the ministry. and I agreed. And what I trying to do is, Lord, let me do this other thing that I'm doing. Actually, I used to teach IT stuff, software engineering, program development, things like those. Then I'll tell God, look, during the weekend, I will be going for ministry. Yes. And then also that way I can support those guys who are in the ministry.
So you wanted to be a part-time.
Exactly. Part-time and a supporter. I feel, even that I'm still doing something.
Yes.
Because to carry the word pastor is still not easy even now. But in those days it did look like there's a stigma to it, So how can you still do it, get around it in your own way? And that is Jonah's style, by the way.
Yes.
Because Jonah has not said he will not serve God, but he'll just serve him in the area he wants. Hii mambo ya Nineveh tuachane nayo. I have another destination.
Yes.
Tashi. When I finished there, I'm sure he was planning to come and continue ministry in Israel, where that's where he feels God should be speaking. So I also had felt that if I just be speaking once in a while, I go to school, and I really went to schools.
Yes.
Big time. Schools, colleges, and what have you, and outreach, outdoor ministry. But to be fully trapped into a church, I really fought with that for a long, long time. And it almost had to take God cornering me into it with a lot of what do you say, compassion, but also compassion and compulsion to the extent that I finally got in the box, so as it were. Yes.
Wow. You see, that is so amazing.
Yes.
And I think that is the message of the book.
Yes.
And you describe Jonah as one of the misunderstood prophet.
Absolutely.
And I want us to understand also, because what is that one thing that believers struggle, today? Because we have mentioned about callings. Of course, there are those who are called into pastoral, those who are called into careers, different areas.
Yes.
So when you're wrestling God's direction, so what is that one of the things that believers usually struggles when to say yes to this?
Yeah. First, let me say, we also have labeled Jonah to be the worst guy in the Bible.
Yes.
I mean, from Sunday school to every time you hear Jonah, but Jonah is actually one of the good guys. First of all, his ministry produced results. Unlike other people, like Jeremiah, he kept talking to people who never listened to him. For the most part, I mean, we are listening to him today, but he was trying to tell the people not to go not to resist going to Babylon, right? They didn't listen. They wanted to go to Egypt. He said, don't go to Egypt. They dragged him into it. But Jonah's ministry actually produced results.
Yes.
But it was a second chance. It was not the first. But you see, many of us, we go astray and we never come round to doing the right thing.
Yes.
So Jonah is ahead of a lot of Christians today. So whether it is a Christian ministry, or it is teaching, or it is business, is it possible for us to allow our will to diminish? Because generally it's just our stubborn will.
Yes.
And fears that if we follow God's way, we wouldn't make it.
Yes.
And we wouldn't be popular, or we wouldn't enjoy life, and so on. So we give him another alternative. And generally for most people, even if they are not very clear, they have an inclination in their heart. I really should be in this other thing.
Yes.
And so we don't do it. And sometimes we do things for the sheer reason of profit.
Yes.
That is the one we prefer. But God wants whatever we are in, whether it's business, whether it is in academics, whether it is in social media, to do it with His goal in mind.
Yes.
So, and we are not saying you can't make money. You can make as much money. In fact, the other day we were talking with my friend, and we thought Elon Musk as an assignment from God. I mean, God cannot give you that much money without some kind of agenda.
Yeah.
So let me give an illustration. I have a friend who is in Egypt. He's an American. And what he was doing until sometime recently, he opened a restaurant in Cairo. I think it was Cairo, Alexandria, one of the places. And the main purpose of that restaurant was to reach out to the Muslims. And he says the restaurant is one of the best ways of ministering to people. Why? Because people tend to repeat going to the same restaurant once they like your food. Therefore, you don't have to be in a hurry to introduce the gospel. You can start by just knowing the person.
Yes.
After 3 months, you can ask, is there something I can pray for? In how is your family doing?
Yes.
After 2 years, because they keep coming all the time.
Yes.
You can now say, by the way, have you thought of Jesus Christ? And then he was training people how to do business with that in mind. So you see, so God takes us to different sectors, but all with a grand purpose of his mission. Those things we run away from because they are generally uncomfortable. So let me give you another illustration. We used to run a service where we used to call it a miracle service when I was in Sitam Valley Road.
Yes.
And I noticed some guys come and they're praying for a visa. Pray for this visa.
Yes.
Let's say a visa to France. And then we pray and it's not granted. But next week they come again. And it's pray again for this visa is not granted. After so many times I finally say, what if God didn't want you to go to this place?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can't just force the way you feel. There must be a point of surrender, even if you're not a pastor. Yeah. So let's take teaching, for instance. You are in the teaching profession and you get a transfer to a place you don't like.
Yes.
But you know very well, if you went to that place, not only would you teach, you'd have opportunity to influence people with the gospel.
Yes.
But you find a relative, a TSC, who can change this thing so that you are in Nairobi near center.
Yeah.
Where Ubers are available all the time. Then your life becomes, you live a life as if you are in the belly of the fish. Because you have not yet allowed God to have you and to flow in the way he wants you to go. So that it's not only, there used to be a creed that the old Christians used to say, would call the Westminster. And they used to ask, what is the chief aim of man, duty of man? And they said it is happiness, it is the glory of God.
Yes.
Something like that. In other words, it is to make God known, glorified. That is bigger than your own happiness or comfort or joy. So that is what we are struggling with. And we are asking all our listeners, it is time to relook, because Jonah failed the first time, but he got it right the second time. Regardless of which age you have gained so far, to go back to the roots and say, what is God speaking to me? What did God speak to me? Or what is it that I know I should be doing and I didn't do? And there are some other smaller things also, tasks that God can give us. For example, I used to live in Jamhuri. And you know, this bus, the green bus is called what? City Hopper.
Yeah.
Yes. So one girl says that the Lord told her to be praying in the bus. She said, Lord, that is very hard. She's a young lady. She said, now let's do this. If the driver agrees that I pray, then we'll do it. But if I'm just going to mention, if they resist kidogo, niachane nayo. Then when she went and mentioned to the conductor, I think, and driver, they said, we've been looking for somebody to be leading us in prayers.
Wow.
She says, with time, people started saying, how come today we have not prayed? And a certain bus, I think it was 7 a.m. Every morning, she's going to work. She'll pray for these people. She said, then later on, people started saying, I have this situation at home. Can you pray for me? And it became her ministry. But you see, she was about to dodge also.
Yes.
Even such small issues that the Lord has spoken to us, it's time to revisit and say yes, like Jonah, a second time before another fish comes to swallow us.
Yeah, but you've mentioned something that caught my attention, and I would like you to shed light on how do we discern whether our discomfort is a divine assignment or just a difficult season? Because it's very important, because like the story of Jonah,
yes,
God used that crisis, that what happened at
yes.
And so how do we know that, yes, it is God aligning me to this?
Yeah, very good. And I deal with that in one of the chapters. When there was a situation in the boat or ship, whatever it was, these guys asked Jonah, kwani we ni nani? Who are you? Because he said, I'm the one who has caused this. He said, I am an Israeli. I serve the God who made heaven and the sea.
Yes.
And I have run away from him. Now, and when we begin with the book, we are told the Lord spoke to Jonah and said, go to this place.
Yes.
We don't have a space where he says, is it God? He was completely sure, because he had a relationship with God.
Yes.
So what we'll say, number one, is not just to seek to hear God, but to have a relationship with God.
Wow.
In which we know when he's speaking. And people say, how do you know? It can never be fast-tracked. Much less than if somebody is dating another one. The relationship, you can't say, let's do drive-through. You have to spend time.
Yes.
You have to share experiences. And then with time, you now know what the other person is saying.
Yes.
One old man told us, he said, if we go to a restaurant with my wife and the waitress says to her, what do you want? I can actually tell without asking her what she will want, because of being together.
Yes.
So that is first thing we have to cultivate. Bring the relationship with God so that we know his voice. And you don't wait. You don't say, I want to hear God when I want to get married. I want to hear God when should I be president or not?
Yes.
No, you must start hearing God about, do I take this matatu or this other one? We must train and learn, and that's why we have pastors.
Yes.
That's why we have elders. That's why we have other Christians, to be checking with them, to bounce back. I think God is telling me to go to Garissa this holiday and speak, and let's see what they say. And with time, you fail once in a while, but you begin to get 170%, 80% accurateness in hearing God. A point reaches where you are totally sure, and then you are not dodging here and there. Should I? Should I not? And once that happens, then that's when real peace actually and joy comes to our lives. But sometimes, even when we are that clear, we still rationalize with God.
Yes.
And reason. Look, like one guy who said God spoke to him to be a pastor. A friend of mine is in Tanzania, and he told God, look, God, I have children to educate. Why don't I do this when I'm 35? So we have all these kinds of things we do because we have not fully trusted God.
Wow.
But surely, who keeps us from being swallowed by the fish? The safety we have right now is from God.
Yes.
So we are safest when we trust and do what he wants us to do. Yes.
Amazing. Now let's talk about this book quickly.
Right.
How can, what is the content of this whole book, and also how can guys also get this book?
Yes.
And also you've mentioned to us that you have a launch that is happening next month.
Yes, exactly. Okay. Maybe I can begin with that. So the launch of this book is on 4th of July. In case you forget the date, it's American Independence Day. 5:30 to 8:30 p.m.
Yes.
At Jotham Valley Road, Dennis Whitehall. Jotham Valley Road is, of course, on Valley Road. And we have a chief guest, which is Justice Daniel Musinga, by God's grace. Yeah. And in fact, we talked with him today. He's still planning to be there. So, as I said, I've not done a launch before, but I was convinced that it is a good way to get it out to more people. So I'd like you to join us as well, if you can. We also, those who would like to come in as partners, corporate people who would like to, for us to mention them and then work with us with this launch. You can also talk to us. I'm going to give you a number in a minute. The book, basically, if I can go through it in 2 minutes, we begin by an introduction whereby, it's actually supposed to be an exposition of the book. Only that I've added a lot of application. So we do begin by talking about who's the author, what are the themes in there. And one of the big themes there is the sovereignty of God. I mean, it's amazing that like when Jonah is sitting outside the city, God sent an east wind. God made the vine to grow. God sent a worm. So both good and bad things that are happening there. Even when it talks about the fish that came, God provided the fish. In other words, our lives are played under God's sovereignty. That's one of the themes, but there are many other themes. Then we talk about some basics about dates and all that. Then I speak about various sectors or areas where I think that Christians should also get into and not be afraid, like Jonah. Even things like space exploration. Even media. I've mentioned media. And I hope you are not disappointed, but I said Christians should not just target Christian media. They also need to be found in the main secular media as well. So that we can have impact out there, education and all these places. Then after that, we have done an exposition of each of the chapters, one by one. So I think I can give them the contact. So if you want to pre-order your book and also to be part of the launch, so that they'll give you details about how to be at that in the launch. We have two numbers I want to give: 0701 832 831. I think that's an easy one. 0701 832 831. And then secondly, we've got 0725 145 600. 0725 145 600. So if you need to know more about the book, more about the launch, how you can partner with us, and we can also talk about you during the event and allow you to also market a little bit, then you can get in touch with those numbers.
Awesome.
And we'll be glad to see you on 4th of July.
Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Rev.
Thank you.
That was a very, very powerful conversation.
I enjoyed it.
What will be your parting shot?
Don't be Jonah.
Okay, thank you so much.
96.9 FM, Pearl Radio.